Hey, everybody. So if you have been hanging out with us for the last couple seasons of the podcast, you probably remember us mentioning Flaututi in our past episodes. Our friend Molly Sharp, who incidentally was also a guest in season 1, started Flaututi to share her awesome duet arrangements of standard viola rep, which are great for teaching, and it has now grown into a wide-ranging catalog of one-of-a-kind resources for violists and beyond. Steph, do you remember when we played one of the duets from a holiday bundle together?
Yes, it's one of my most cherished holiday memories.
Aww.
But actually, one of my favorites is something that all string instrumentalists would love. It's called Making Double Stops Ring, a guided exploration of just intonation. And Molly actually shared the viola version with us last year, and I am not exaggerating when I say that it completely changed the way I think about intonation. No one has ever explained it to me like this before. I think that we all realize on some level that a B in all situations is not the same, but why?
Yeah. Have you ever had that classic argument in a string quartet setting when you're trying to tune a chord and maybe we're playing that B and we're being told, no, it needs to go lower. No, it needs to go higher. It needs to go here. Wouldn't it be amazing to save all those hours for our string quartet students with no debate? We just know where it's supposed to go. Everyone agrees because there's only one way.
Right. You can just gift them copies of this book.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing personal. Just here's a book about intonation. Well, Molly has made it easy for all of us to play in tune. So whether you play viola, violin, cello, or bass, there's a version for you. You can find this pragmatic book, viola duet arrangements of classic viola repertoire, and so much more at vlatutti.com under Marketplace, or look in this episode's show notes. Welcome to the Musician-Centric Podcast. We are two freelance violists living and laughing our way through conversations that explore what it means to be a professional musician in today's world. I'm Steph.
And I'm Liz. And we're so glad you've joined us. Let's dive in.
Are we putting these up?
Oh, on the Patreon? I forgot about that.
That might be fun.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
If you're on the Patreon, then you can see my new shirt.
That's right. Her shirt's super cute.
I've got merch. Musician-centric merch. This is the women's tricolor or tri-blend purple.
That's so pretty.
Musician-centric
Mine
shirt.
hasn't come yet.
Yeah, you'll love it.
I'll showcase my wares on another episode when you come to the Patreon and you see I'll be wearing mine.
Yay!
It'll just be like a surprise. Which episode?
Oh, you get to see our banter.
Yeah. And any given day, what we're wearing, what we look like.
Yeah. What we didn't do to our hair or our makeup.
Whether or not we have day old concert hair that we zhuzh to the best of our ability.
That's my situation.
You know,
Zhuzhed.
Sometimes that's just what you got to do. You just got to like go with a zhuzh and leave it. And
hey, I love that we're freelance hot.
Freelance hot. Yeah.
When you want to be, you do it.
I am very proud of that ability in us, actually.
Yeah.
Plus, also, like, this has nothing to do with Mozart and the Jungle, guys, so we'll get there in a second. But I was just thinking about this, like, the whole concept of that post, which I thought was really funny. But I was like, this is, like, hot as a state of mind. And then, like, there's, like, glam. There's, like, we got glam, and that's glam hot, which we are very capable of doing. But I think we're hot no matter what. That's the state of mind.
It's a state of mind.
Which I like.
Like New York.
Heck yeah.
Speaking of New York.
Speaking of
the New York state of mind.
At you get the segue right off the bat.
All right. I'm feeling it.
Oh, episode 2. Okay, can I just say, intro, still not a fan. It's kind of like I don't know, like a teeny tiny fragment of a symphony theme that just stops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not super well thought out. But anyway, we don't have to talk about that anymore. It annoys me, and I might. And you don't have the option to skip because it's like too short.
Yes.
So
I tried, but I wasn't fast enough.
Oh yeah, because Prime doesn't have like the click fast forward, like Apple, you just tap it and it's like 10 seconds.
Right.
The Prime is like, if you don't anticipate when you need to stop, you're going too far.
Yep.
Word to the wise, everybody.
One of the downfalls.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, did you catch the name of this episode?
No, what is it?
It's called Nothing Resonates Like Rhinoceros Foreskin.
Oh, God.
Which definitely
we'll get there.
is a line that's said in this episode.
But first, Steph, how excited were you?
I was very excited. So that we open on a surprise party.
The best girl.
For Lizzie.
The best girl's back.
I love her. And Bradford, who are an item, and they've just come back from like traveling the world like true bohemians.
Yep. They really did it up. They didn't shower and stuff because she was very excited about the shower.
Mm-hmm.
And I really loved the scene where they're in her room together and they're just like, it was like real time girl talk, catch up. It was much needed. Lizzie gave our girl some real talk, which she needed.
Right. So basically Lizzie completely hones in on the vibes that Hailey and Alex are not really in that honeymoon stage anymore. The honeymoon's over. They're kind of like souring on each other.
Yep.
It's getting old.
Yep.
And she says that obviously you're into Rodrigo and you need to do two things. You need to, number one, get Rodrigo a new assistant.
Right. Because
you can't be all up in his business.
Yep.
And number two, you need to figure out what you're doing with Alex and let him know.
Yeah. This is all very like practical, good advice. And Hailey's like, but I am trying to find him a new assistant and he doesn't want any of them. And she's like, no, you don't want any of them.
Right.
Which is like not entirely untrue, like subconscious business,
Yeah.
So I really appreciate this jam session that's going on in the living room because they've brought back all of these instruments from like all these places they've been. And I could get behind that, like in the early part of the first season when they were doing that horrible excerpt off or whatever.
Yeah.
Like some kind of ridiculous subjective competition. Yeah.
Yeah. Spin the wheel of... I don't know. What was it called? Showdown?
Yeah. Yeah, it was like Showdown. Something
like that.
Horrible like that, which would never happen in real life, at least never in any parties I've been to. But like a jam session with a bunch of like instruments from another part of the world, that seems like a good time.
Right. So Bradford has brought back this one that has like these horn legs that it props up on and a very tiny drum. And I will say he had Alex just tap it and it sounded magical.
Made a very satisfying sound.
It was lovely. And if it really truly sounded like that, I would be in on that as well.
It's this like lovely little, like you can't even replicate that. It was very nice.
Yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah.
And we come to learn that Bradford has been invited to move in. To their apartment.
Yes.
And he's talking with Alex, and Alex kind of has a look like, oh, well, I didn't get invited to move in.
It's like, I got a toothbrush. My toothbrush is here.
And I'm with Bradford when he says electric toothbrushes are the way to go.
I haven't gone water pick route, but I would love...
No, I haven't.
I would love a water pick too. That would make me feel so good.
What does Bradford say?
Clean teeth are the best.
If you want to blow your mouth's mind.
Exactly. It was literally blow your mouth's mind. Sorry, guys. I keep hitting my glass again.
Is that the drum?
No, it was more like a...
Magical.
It was more like a...
That was not nearly as magical.
It needs to be...
That must not be rhinoceros foreskin.
It needs to be like a... Like that kind of sound, like it.
Yeah.
But it was like higher pitched.
It was...
I can't find
like
it.
a magical
Percussionist
bell.
friends, help me.
I'm just going to flick things.
This is going to be by far our most listened to episode
this is
yet.
ASMR. ASMR. Mozart in the Jungle.
Okay.
So they're
What's happening
now? Mike of the tattoos is back. The one that Lizzie was giving a tattoo to earlier in the
and he is
season 1.
Getting down.
He is living and breathing music.
That's what she says. And Hailey gets this look, which of course at the moment I did not understand. She'll get this look on her face like, oh, of course.
Yes. And so we'll find out more about what that look was about later. The next scene, we're at rehearsal.
Back to the symphony hall.
And I have to say, when they started panning around the orchestra, I was like, this is a hot person orchestra. Only in Hollywood. There's so many good-looking people in this orchestra.
They transcend, quote, orchestra hot to venture into real world hot.
Everyone is good-looking. Rodrigo enters. He seems kind of unsure about this. And I wrote, is he going to be mean?
I had a really important question to ask you before we get into what's happening in the scene.
Yes.
Did the rat tail move?
I had that same thought that it moved, but then I was like, oh, well, maybe I'm being, I don't know, nitpicky.
Also, I don't think there were 3. There are like 3 now in the same place, like 3 separate ropes.
I didn't even see that.
And they were kind of, I kept staring at it then for the rest of the episode. It's like, this feels like it's in a different place on his head than it was last episode. But I will lose my mind if in the next episode it's also like clearly in a different place.
What is that show where there's, you know how in the 1700s they had those moles? The women would draw those moles on? Yeah. There's some comedy where the mole like migrates around the woman's face. Every shot it's in a different place. What is that?
Okay, that is in, I think that's in Young Frankenstein, isn't it? Does that happen in Young Frankenstein? Oh my gosh, somebody's got to help us.
Someone is screaming it at the
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, it moves it to different place. So that's what I'm wondering. It's like, is that what they're going to do to us with this rat?
Maybe they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
They're like moving it to different parts of his head.
They're self-aware. 2015, they recognize the rat tail's got to go, but let's just have some fun with it first.
That's got to be what it is, because it is ridiculous.
so ridiculous. Okay, so, but he does... He kind of like leads into it by saying, that the concert wasn't bad, but he basically said it also wasn't good, and was talking about like lateral movement essentially, and that they weren't going to the moon. And that's when he kind of like tries to kick into his bad cop routine, which isn't super convincing, but the orchestra seems annoyed enough. So,
yeah.
I mean, he cancels softball.
No phone, no chit chat, no lawyers on stage.
I mean,
Kristoff is being attacked and singled out.
To be fair, no. Are we ever encouraged to be talking on stage? Are we ever encouraged to have our phone ring during the performance?
But he canceled softball
now,
too.
The softball canceling. I take umbrage with that, because
he can't do that. That's outside of his purview.
They're allowed to do whatever they want. He can't say no. Which is exactly how I would react to that. I'd look around at everybody and be like, we're going to do that anyway, right?
Yeah, seriously.
What's he going to do? Fire all of us? So anyway, yeah. So now Rodrigo's also in trouble. It's not just the orchestra that's in trouble. It's also Rodrigo.
Yes. So Rodrigo's been living in an apartment that is provided by one big donor, notably the father of Sarabelle, who was just fired as Rodrigo's assistant. Anyway, her donor dad is thinking about...
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean that to be funny. That's not actually funny, but like it's funny because, the dad who's the donor.
Aren't all dads donors of something?
I guess technically speaking, yes. This episode is extra.
It's extra. What are you drinking there?
Wouldn't you like to know?
So Rodrigo might be evicted. and he's on thin ice. And they show some flashbacks to his time as a tenant, and he has been kind of a bad tenant. So he's had a goat there.
How did he even get the goat into the apartment? Like, he would have had to bring it on the elevator. It's like, I have so many questions about the goat. Things feel to be reaching critical mass a little bit. Like, things are all kind of, the wheels are spinning off in every direction. Yeah. It's getting a little crazy.
Right. So the donor might pull funding. Are you going to say what I think you're going to say?
Speaking of crazy.
Oh, wait, what do you think?
Oh, it's coming.
What are you going to bring up?
No, it's the next scene. I was jumping ahead. You say what you were going to say.
Okay, so Rodrigo and Gloria are talking backstage. They wrap up their conversation, and Pavel comes up, the stage manager. Yes. Hot and wise Pavel comes up, and he and Gloria have a moment, and I'm not sure what it is.
I did notice that. You're right. I did notice that moment.
Are they? Like, is there...
That would be very exciting. I would root wholeheartedly for that situation.
I'm on board with that.
Oh, I hope you caught something that develops. I did not. I hope so. I admit, I don't think I noticed that. So I'm very excited now. I'm going to be watching.
Okay. I watched that.
Eagle eye. Yeah.
So the scene that you're talking about is coming up here.
Our favorite guy from Princess Bride / Clueless is back.
I call him Vincini. I can't stop.
Somebody brought this up to me. Oh, I feel like a jerk. Somebody recently brought up this conversation to me and was like, "You're really not into the Princess Bride?" And I was like, "I'm not into it." It's like literally what I said. I'm all about the double negatives today. I've been using a lot of double negatives for some reason today. I guess that's a sign of being non-committal. But it's not like I'm not against the Princess Bride.
It wasn't one of your formative experiences.
I don't think I've ever seen it the whole way through.
Oh my God. It blows my mind.
Whereas Mr. Hall, I know every line Mr. Hall has in Clueless. Anyway, it is lovely to see Winslow again.
Yes. So Winslow, the pianist, is in Thomas's apartment, and clearly Thomas is showing him his symphony. So hopefully this gets Rodrigo off the hook, because I don't know. But anyway, the reviews are not great.
It's really funny because at first he's like very encouraging. He's like, "Oh, it's a work in progress. You can get funky with it. You can play around." And Thomas is very distraught about this and informs him, even though, so he's supposedly written this masterpiece and he hasn't had anybody like review it or help him revise it or edit it or whatever. He's going to premiere it in 2 weeks in Belarus somewhere. And Winslow's like, "Congratulations, that's terrible news." And
hey, he is a true friend.
Tells him to call.
He's a true friend. He was going to be supportive.
Right.
He was going to be supportive when he learned it was, he was workshopping it. Right. He was still working on it. But he told him the truth when he's like, "Oh, I'm going to put this out there." And he's like, "You shouldn't
Don't do that yet." And then he says the thing that like every artist fears in their entire lives. He calls the work derivative. But then he also backs it up by playing quotes from other things that Thomas confuses for his own music. But I really liked the quote that he said about, like, "You're this conductor. You've been living and breathing this music for decades and decades. What goes in must come out." Mm-hmm. So this concept that maybe the concept is you write all this, you get it all out of your system. Like you put all these themes out and then there's room. It's like a detox.
I love that. I don't think Thomas is taking it that
Definitely not right now.
Because he throws Winslow out.
He picks him up.
Bodily removes him.
And Winslow, in his what's the actor's name? Oh my God. I forget the actor's name. It's terrible.
So,
Wallace
Scott or something like that. Wallace.
He's going, I'm ticklish. That whole scene is great. But yeah, he kicks him out. He's really upset. Yeah.
And then we're over in Gloria's office again. Sharon is there as a proxy for Edward,
Literally.
who's the very annoying donor.
Ugh, Edward.
He's the worst.
I said,
He's
what
pulling
a surprise
funding.
jerk face isn't there.
Yeah. He couldn't do it in person.
Yeah.
So he's deferring his funding until the next financial quarter. So that's obviously bad news.
Yep.
Hailey shows up to the office because she's been summoned there. And we learn that they're making Hailey the face of the orchestra. And she doesn't even play in.
This isn't far-fetched at all.
This would never happen. Never, ever,
Although,
ever.
to be fair, I will say, I just found this on Facebook. There's an orchestra I've subbed with exactly once in the last 8 years. And I went on their Facebook, and there's a photo with me prominently in the middle of it. I was like, hey, don't I get credit for like using my likeness or something? What is
you probably signed something away.
I did when I filled out my I-9.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, this is very far-fetched. Like, she's gonna be like on billboards and stuff. That's insane.
And this is not going to go over well with the rest of the orchestra.
Also, what about Cynthia? She's a babe.
Yeah, they've got plenty of hot people in that orchestra.
Yeah, it's a super hot orchestra.
It's hot orchestra.
We have already established. I do like that there is a young donors event of some kind that we're going to see.
Right.
It felt very appropriate to recent experience of my own, except, well, they weren't really young donors.
I was going to say.
I was thinking about donor events.
How many would you have enough young donors to make a party list? I guess
maybe in New York.
Maybe.
All that young money, like family money, like big inherited families, like with lots of wealth.
Okay. Maybe.
Yeah, I could see it, but anywhere else, no. But it would be great. It's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. It is a good
Young
idea.
rich kids.
So Gloria wants Hailey to come.
Yeah.
Which we're going to see later.
Yep. It's that time of year. We're back to school and we are back to gigging. Even if you're not mentally ready for the season, you can count on our season sponsor, Potter Violins, to get your equipment ready. When's the last time you rehearsed your bow, Steph?
Oh, I feel like it was recently, but I bet it's been over 6 months. So I got to get over there and get it freshened up. Oh, and I need new backup strings and an instrument adjustment.
Sounds like it might be about time.
Yeah.
I do love to get in there for a visit to our favorite technicians as we approach the change of season. Maybe I need a new case, too.
And as we've said before, if you need a rental instrument, they're the place to go. My daughter and many of my students rent from Potters, and the instruments are really fantastic, even the smaller violas.
Yes. Get back to your music this season with confidence by visiting Potter Violins, so your equipment will be ready, even if you might need a bit more of a warm-up.
Then we flash over to Rodrigo's apartment. He's contemplating his divorce papers. He's got to sign them. It looks like he's dragging his feet on that.
Yeah.
But Hailey shows up, and she has found him an assistant.
She has. It's Mike!
It's Mike! Yay! The one who lives and breathes music.
Such a good idea.
And yeah, so before he had decided, I wrote lots of encouraging things for Mike. Mike is a candidate. Give Mike a chance. He made the mate! Exclamation point, exclamation point. I was rooting for Mike.
I love that he trapped him by saying he made the mate. I was like, well, I mean, I did that, you know. Okay, I had two things about this. First of all, I really need a life assistant. Like, I want someone to keep my life in tune. I feel like I need to manifest this because I would like, I don't know what my life would be like if I just had someone running around, like bringing me my coffee the way I like it and like making sure I do all the things and not riding my bike at 3:00 in the morning and all those things. I would do really well with that. So I'm just going to put it out in the universe. The other thing I wrote down was This quiz.
You're manifesting
this quiz
an assistant.
Yeah, manifesting an assistant. Somebody talked to me about this recently, by the way. That's a story for another time. She was like, when you're re-envisioning your life in 2024, she's like, you should start like billing in the possibility of what it would be like to have someone who's assisting you like in your life. Like,
hey, there's virtual assistants.
can you imagine how much more functional my life would be if I had someone helping me?
I might help subsidize.
That's good to know. I'm going to lock that away. I'm going to pick this back up in January.
Noted.
Yeah, I do. I need a mic. Or Michelle, as Rodrigo's instantly decided he's going to call him. But also, Rodrigo gives him this quiz. And I was thinking to myself, like, would Hailey have known all the answers on this quiz? Probably.
Did you know all the answers to this on your quiz? Okay. I didn't. He asks him like, oh my God, I can't remember what he asked him because I was like, I don't know.
And what was the last question? Oh, about going into the monastery or whatever?
Oh yeah.
Did you know the answer to that?
No.
And then he just showed him the tattoo and we don't.
His tattoo. Was that Lizzie's tattoo?
Oh, that'd be hilarious if it was Lizzie's tattoo. I thought she did like some terrible bear on his back or something.
Oh, that's right. It's on his inner forearm and it's of Liszt.
Oh, Liszt joined a monastery?
That's what I thought I read as the name underneath that.
I'm glad you caught that.
Bust.
Because I just thought it was a head and I was like, so we don't know who that is? We're not supposed to know who that is?
They made that up.
I'm annoyed I don't know who this is. Like it was making me feel inadequate in my music history knowledge.
I think they were supposed to be pretty obscure.
Yeah. But no, so Michelle has got a chance.
Right. And so Hailey leaves with the satisfaction that she's probably found him a really good candidate. And Rodrigo looks very dejected. He clearly is missing Hailey.
Yeah.
So then we're over at a diner. They're having an orchestra committee meeting, talking about, well, first of all, the stern papa version of Rodrigo.
Uh-huh.
They're talking about all these new rules and his new attitude. Mm-hmm. No, he hasn't won any people over. Apparently management has denied their terms. They're going forward with their rollbacks, and Nina, the lawyer, is there.
Yeah. Interestingly, she talks about this where I mean, a lot of this, it feels like, I don't want to use the word triggering because I think that gets overused, but I felt a little like it was hitting a bit of a nerve because you and I are on a committee and we're figuring out some contract stuff this year. And some of the conversation points that have happened in here are actually the type of conversation points you might have. And one of the things that Nina talks about is this idea that the orchestra members are kind of they're validating the other point of view in a way that's like invalidating their needs or what they're asking for. And she's saying, you kind of can't overestimate your relationship with Gloria or the power that has, because here's Edward Jerkface, who is really the bad guy, and he has controlling interest of the board because of all of his like various financial things, and he basically breaks up companies for a living, and that's how he's made all of his money. But one of the things that was really interesting, and also the going after his image thing, like jokingly this came up in a conversation recently, which I'm just thinking about. I was laughing about that. But I was thinking about this in the meeting with Gloria when Sharon was Edward's proxy. Gloria says, because he basically says he's going to hold his funding for the quarter. He's not going to give them any more cash flow for the quarter, which is going to squeeze them. And at first, the orchestra's like, the people on Gloria's side are like, oh my God, that's going to totally screw us over. And then Gloria's like, wait, no, this is brilliant because it weakens our position when we go in to negotiate with the musicians. So she's essentially saying, she's not working for the musicians. She's essentially saying, like, no, this puts us in a position to make it seem like we have less money than we do to pay them.
Right.
So I think it's good they have Nina, because Nina's kind of...
Yeah.
Except then Cynthia comes over and is like, you don't need to go so hard. You know, what was it? She was like, wanted her to back off a little, but I don't think that's what they need.
Yeah. Yeah. And basically, Nina's hitting on Cynthia.
Oh my gosh, overtly.
Shamelessly.
She's like, I'm so distracted because you're the sexiest woman I've ever seen. Which, to be fair, you know, Saffron Burrows kind of is one of the sexiest women on the planet.
I mean, yes, but if you're there as
you need to do your job
in a professional manner, you don't just willy-nilly go hitting on your client, basically.
That's very true. Very true.
Okay, but I know this is supposed to be salacious.
For the drama.
Yeah. Anyway, so then we're at the young donors party, and Hailey shows up looking très chic. She has her hair up. She looks very nice, very put together.
The young donor notices her right away.
Yes, this young donor named Eric.
Yep.
Who's very nice, giving her attention.
Yeah.
And there's a symphony hall cake.
The symphony hall, the dream symphony hall, which I wrote, oh yes, just what we need to spend more money on a new venue.
Well, yeah, that's what I said. Like, they have the money for that in New York. They have donors dropping out.
Yeah, they're like losing money,
and they're like, "Oh, let's make this giant symphony hall complex."
That happens so often that I'm like, and just I don't know, just in terms of spending priorities, but this whole scene had me thinking so much about patronage and this concept, and I think it is coming fresh off of. I got to play a show. Stephanie and I play in a group that she was otherwise occupied, so we weren't able to play together, but I was at this event where afterwards we had a donor reception, and we were sitting and eating amazing desserts and drinking champagne and talking to these donors, and I was just like sort of marveling at this concept of just the mixing of the artist with the person who has the means in order to support them. And that it's very much like a business transaction in so many ways, but it also has this kind of like veil of, I'm asking you for something. It's not a transactional relationship like a business relationship. But in this case, when you have a donor, you're like asking them to give you money if you're in that. And just the like history of that vibe, you know, that vibe is like, it's really interesting. I was just like watching this scene and thinking, wow, this is like what it would look like to have a new generation of those people that you're figuring out how to have that transactional relationship with. And you don't even they can't even argue age or wisdom on top of you. It's just strictly that they have the money and you need it.
Right. It's a strictly money-based power dynamic. Yeah, I really do feel like that's why it feels so weird to go into those conversations, because you know they have the power.
Yeah. Yeah.
To say yes or no.
Yeah.
And they know they have the power to say yes or no.
Yeah.
So it's so uneven.
Yeah.
That it doesn't really feel like a relationship in that way.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like a give and a take kind of thing.
100%. And of course, you know, we have seen firsthand what a really beautiful sort of like, I don't know, I guess, instead of the word transactional, I would use reciprocal type relationship can look like with a philanthropist who's willing to put their resources behind something they believe in, or a person they believe in. I mean, it can be like a beautiful relationship, but at the outset, like when you're trying to form that relationship with all these different people, and you do feel, I mean, there was this kind of feeling like, I don't know, like a display, like you're on display, you're doing this thing and they're watching you do this thing and they're admiring the thing and then they want to give you money for it. It's very interesting. I don't know. There's something to pick apart, but
yeah.
So
Rodrigo gives a lovely speech in Spanish.
This is his target market, I feel like, for donors, the young donors.
He
could be way more into his deal than the old guys.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Edward is there. He's trolling Gloria. Why is Edward there?
He's not a young donor.
Yeah.
He's an old jerk face.
Yeah. Whoa, strong language there.
I have said jerk face a record number of times on this episode for what it's worth. I think that's now 5. It might be the 5th time I've said it.
That's what we're going to call this episode. The forks.
Incoming
foreskin.
is the scene that made me laugh harder than any other scene in the entire episide.
Wait, the one where Hailey's drunk?
Yes. So first, though, what did Rodrigo say to Sharon?
He said, why did you leave me? Or something like that. They were talking about...
It got really close to her face and like...
Yeah. Well, the very first episode, weren't they like making out?
Right. They were hooking up. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And she left him for Edward. Ooh.
Yeah. I thought it seemed threatening, or not threatening, but like, yeah, I bet you regret it or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, it was weird.
So Hailey is definitely tipsy. And she's like, Maestro, can I buy you this free glass of champagne and come hang out with us? And da-da-da-da. And his face, he looks so concerned. And he goes, this is not Acapulco. He's like scolding her for how out of control she is.
I was like, calm down. She had a couple drinks. She's having a great time. She's a fun drunk. Okay? She is hilarious and fun.
I know, but I was thinking about it from the perspective of this is donor relations. She's supposed to be like working these donors, and she's turning into...
She's probably doing a great job.
I'm sure he was...
Let's be real.
I'm sure he was a little jealous.
Yes, I think that's what it was.
But I laughed. I don't know why I laughed so hard, because her reaction too was like... it made me laugh so hard. And then the fact that he's like fleeing and he's biking and he's doing his usual thing, but Mike or Michelle is desperately trying to keep up.
Poor Mike.
He's like, if I lose you,
Mike's like,
text
what
me
did
a
I get roped
rendezvous
into? Text me a rendezvous point. He's trying so hard. He fixed him that little plate of perfectly curated food before he left, right. And then Rodrigo's like, "No, I don't want any of that.
Like,
we're leaving.
I don't have an appetite." It's like, how could you even think I could eat right now?
Yeah, Rodrigo is very high maintenance.
Oh, that whole thing was so funny to me.
I hope Mike sticks around because I like him.
Oh yeah, I think he's here. He's probably here for the temporary future anyway.
I hope so.
How does he always find these crazy parties with these crazy people?
And where are these happening?
And he seemingly finds the most like unstable seeming broad that exists in the group, and then he goes right for her.
Yeah, so they find this random drum circle that's happening.
It looks like fun.
It looks like fun, but there's like an Anna Maria lookalike there.
Basically. And he goes right for her.
Who goes right for, and they are dancing and having a good time. Then we flash over to Hailey and Lizzie, who are back at their apartment, and I was like, this is the best ending to any night.
Yes.
They're both just
eating
sitting
cake
out there in their jammies, comfy clothes. They're eating cake. They're commiserating.
Keeping it real.
They're having girl talk. I wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And then they have a cake fight.
Which I can't. Food fights stress me out so badly.
Oh, really?
Oh, I hate everything about the idea of a food fight. I hate the idea of wasting the cake. That's number one. That's really upsetting. I don't like the idea of the food like smeared on you, or like if it's like a chunk and then it falls off of your clothing and you like don't know if it's going to fall off your clothing, or it's stuck in your hair, or it gets on your face and then your face breaks out. There's like a lot to consider. Please don't ever, if we ever have a sleepover, we can do all those other things, but don't put food on
those
me.
Smashing of cake.
No, please don't put food on
cake on you.
No.
Okay, noted. If we ever get married, I will not smash it in your face. Did you have that stipulation before you guys got married? Your previous year?
Yeah, no, I didn't like make a huge deal of it because I assumed we would not do that to each other.
Yeah.
That was.
We definitely
had
a no. There will be no.
Yeah, but speaking of like we do have retirement plans. Just so you know, the story for another time. I heard about it. I heard a plan last night.
I'm in.
It's gonna be great.
I'm always down for a
musician commune retirement plan. I'm big on that. And then finally we end the episode with
so Rodrigo and the drummer girl.
And
which, by the way, in the credits, that is her name. Her character's name is Drummer Girl.
Boy.
Are at his apartment.
Yeah, I mean, he is having a massive party in his apartment. It's like everyone that was in the drum circle, he has now invited back to the place, and he's almost surely going to get evicted.
He's going to get evicted, yeah.
This is only a matter of if it's next episode or the one after that.
Oh, do you think that he's going to have to move in with Hailey?
I think
he gets evicted.
Oh boy, that would be kind of crazy. That would set it up, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
Alex would be like, I don't get to move in, but this guy with the rat tail.
This guy's, yes. And he would not be wrong.
Well, that wraps it. That's where we left things, with Rodrigo in a fit of passion with the Anna Maria lookalike, and we'll see what happens with all the drama next one.
See you on the next one.
Don't forget to give us a follow if you haven't already. And if you love what you're hearing, maybe a 5-star review would be really lovely. Mm-hmm. I think that would be a great Thanksgiving treat.
I would love to see an inbox full of reviews.
Yeah.
Thank you. That would be a great gift.
It's like on our wish list throughout the end of the year, I think. Mm-hmm. Yep. Through the holidays. All we want for the holidays. All right, I'm stopping. I'm done. That's it. That's all I got.
Bye. See you next time.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you loved this episode, consider writing us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
Thanks also to our season sponsor, Potter Violins.
If you'd like to support the podcast and get access to bonus content, consider joining our Patreon community.
You can buy all your musician-centric merch, including shirts, water bottles, koozies, and a variety of other fun items.
Our theme music was written and produced by JP Wogeman and is performed by Steph and myself.
Our episodes are produced by Liz O'Hara and edited by Emily McMahon.
Thanks again for listening. Let's talk soon.